What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is December 27th of 2017. Well, folks, today I'm here to talk about something that's been on the minds of many people inside the cryptocurrency community, and it's something that I've wanted to talk about over the past few days here on the DataDash channel, and it is no other than the supposed rebirth of the Segwit2x hard fork, or what many people are claiming is a rebirth for Segwit2x, but in reality cannot be further from the truth. So, we've got lots to talk about inside this video, guys, and I'm going to try to keep it short, sweet, and to the point, but I know that many of you out there are brand new to cryptocurrencies. You just got in a week ago or maybe over the past month, and you don't even know about the history of Segwit2x, so because of that, I'm going to give you a short, condensed kind of history lesson in regards to what Segwit2x was originally, and I'll leave a link down below on my original Segwit2x video if you want to go back and kind of learn a little bit more in an in-depth way. But we're also going to be talking about a lot of things that we have to consider with this supposed rebirth of Segwit2x. First and foremost, that this is not the original Segwit2x. And we're going to be talking about the major differences between Segwit2x now and where it was in the past. And along with that, we're going to be talking about what it offers comparative to Bitcoin as it is now. Remember, Segwit2x, don't let the logo fool you. Segwit2x is something separate from Bitcoin. They're four different currencies. Segwit2x is going to be a forked currency that has different values comparative to Bitcoin. And along with that as well, we're going to be talking about what kind of price ramification this is going to have on Bitcoin, whether it's going to be positive or negative. I'm going to be sharing my opinion, and that's simply what it is. It's not a foolproof answer. Along with this as well, we're going to be talking about how you claim your Segwit2x at the end. So we've got a lot to talk about in regards to this video, but again, try to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. All right. So let's go ahead and talk about the first factor. For those of you who don't know out there in regards to Segwit2x, Segwit2x was going to be implemented back in November, and it had been something that was planned back since May of 2017. And this was going to be a implementation that was agreed upon between the miners in New York and what's known as the New York Agreement. So for Bitcoin to have improvements, as it does over time, it's done through BIPs, or Bitcoin Improvement Proposals. And these are determined by the miners, the people who mine for new Bitcoin and process our transactions on the network. Well, they vote through this using their hashing power. And over 80% of the hashing power through a combined list of companies and organizations and mining pools came together inside of New York, and they agreed on a scaling solution for Bitcoin. That's one of the biggest issues with Bitcoin right now, is the fact that Bitcoin cannot process enough transactions. And there's really two sides to the argument on how we should scale Bitcoin. There was the people who supported Segwit, or segregated witness, which separates the signature from the transaction. And along with that as well was the bigger blocks, the people who wanted to increase the block size to fit more transactions into each block that's processed every 10 minutes on the blockchain. So there was really two counter sides, and they wanted their solution more than anything. But they came to New York and they said, why not have, the best of both worlds? And they came into an agreement where they would implement Segwit, segregated witness, with the doubling of the block size, an increase in the block size. So you had both inside of one formulated improvement proposal for Bitcoin. Well, long story short, it didn't go through. Things didn't work out. And because of that, as we can take a look down here on the futures that were trading beforehand, whereas it was valued at its peak around $2,000 per Segwit2x for currency, you can see the price went down to practically nothing. So it was seen as a dead project for some time. Jeff Garzik, the founder of the project, canceled it. A lot of the support evaporated towards the end, and the New York Agreement was practically worthless in that regard. So because of that, we didn't see the forked currency for Segwit2x. We didn't see this Bitcoin alternative come out. However, just over the past few days, we've seen a recent jump up in the futures price because there has been an announcement that supposedly Segwit2x is back in action and will be launching here in the next few days. So anyone holding Bitcoin is going to receive Segwit2x. So is this the original Segwit2x that we were promised about beforehand? No, it's not. It's different, actually. And a lot of it is, ironically, very off from what the title of this forked currency states. So we'll be talking about that first and foremost as we go throughout this video. And then we'll be talking about a lot of the things you should just see right off the bat that should give you a pretty bad sign that this is not going to even have a chance at replacing Bitcoin. But anyways, that's something for later on in the video. So a lot of news and media has been covering this hard fork, and a lot of people have been talking about how Segwit2x is returning. It's coming back from the grave, and it's it's taking its second shot, at being the next big Bitcoin. It's going to replace Bitcoin, as every forked currency claims. However, this is not the case. It is not Segwit2x. As was being proposed back in November. And the reason is because it's a completely different currency with different parameters and things that it offers compared to Bitcoin than it was back in November. And along with that, it's with an entirely different team. The original Segwit2x project was founded by Jeff Garzik, whereas in this case, Jap Turlo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, don't really care, is the new founder of this project. So they've pretty much taken the Segwit2x name and taken it and put it onto their project. So let's go ahead here. We could dive through this. There's a lot of weird kind of rough edges. For example, how people who claim their B2X will also receive a proportionate number of Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoins as a reward, and meaning they're the forked equivalent currency of Satoshi's holdings in Bitcoin on this new forked currency. So they're not stealing his Bitcoins and stuff. Okay. Well, anyways, long story short, there's just a lot of weird things that they state here within the document that we're reading through. And it honestly was a poor job in regards to Cointelegraph's description of everything here, because they didn't really make it extremely clear that this is a separate version of Segwit2x. This is not the original one that we were told about. Now, it's going to be implemented on block 501,451, which is basically going to be 12/28/2017 or early on the 29th, okay? So it's really going to be hitting quite soon in the next day or so. However, again, like I was saying, this is not the original Segwit2x. How do we know this? Well, we can go ahead and actually look here on the GitHub comparative to, this is the old one right here. This was the original Segwit2x one. And as we can see here, Jeff Garzik is here. This is the GitHub for the new Bitcoin 2x or Segwit2x. So this is not the same currency. And you can go through and see what they're supposedly working on and proposing. But as we can see here, Jeff Garzik has stated he is not a part of it. And some people I know have made a joke saying that means it's safe to buy it because the other one was canceled. But anyways, on a more serious note, it's really important to talk about what Segwit2x is offering. So, whereas Segwit2x originally was offering really one major change comparative to the original Bitcoin, which was implementing an increase in the block size, because Segwit was already implemented on Bitcoin in August, it was going to be a two-step process. It was going to be implementing Segwit and an increase in the block size. And we got the first portion of it through implementing Segwit on the Bitcoin network, but we did not get it in the sense of the increase of the block size. So, whereas Segwit2x was going to offer both of those, what does the new Segwit2x offer? Let's go ahead and dive into the details. So first and foremost, we see here that there is an increase in the block size to 4 megabytes compared to 1 megabyte for Bitcoin. Now, I don't know if the devs don't see the irony in this, or maybe I'm missing something, but the fact that it's named Segwit2x, and if you're going to take the brand of Segwit2x, yet increase the block size to 4 megabytes, doesn't seem to make much sense, because the title itself, Segwit2x, is referring to segregated witness and a doubling of the block size. We're quadrupling the block size. So this is not the original Segwit2x we were told about. Not saying that 4 megabytes would be bad per se, but that's a 4 times the original size on the blocks that are processed every 10 minutes. So that's not the original proposed doubling of block size. So that's already off on that regard. And that's a very big factor. Along with that as well, there's a higher production rate of 2.5 minutes compared to 10 minutes for each new block. So on the blockchain for Bitcoin, a new block is added every 10 minutes. And inside those blocks are a bunch of transactions. Whereas in this case, instead of waiting for 10 minutes, the blockchain for the new Segwit2x would have it every 2.5 minutes. So there'd be a new block every 2.5 minutes with new transactions. So again, not what was originally proposed in Segwit2x. They plan to just have it at 10 minutes per block on average. So that's different as well. Recalculation of complexity after each block. So the complexity, I think they should have made this, if I'm reading it correctly, relabeled as difficulty, because difficulty is the adjustment in difficulty is how hard it is to mine for to mine and also process a new block on the Bitcoin network, and to process the transactions and receive the Bitcoin reward if you do get that block. In this case, they're saying that it's going to recalculate after every block, and that's going to mean if there's more hashing power, the difficulty goes up. If there's less hashing power, you're going to have the difficulty go down. That is not how Segwit2x was originally planning to work. Segwit2x originally planned to work just like Bitcoin. It was going to readjust every 10 minutes, every 2 weeks as intended originally. Along with that as well, we see that there's protection against repeated transactions. Again, I think that could have been worded better because I think they're referring to replay attacks and having replay attack protection, okay? So again, that was not something that was going to be implemented on Segwit2x, but should have. Jeff Garzik and the other developers are being extremely stubborn about that. I don't know why. So that's actually something I wouldn't even... It's so good to have on a forked currency that I wouldn't complain about it. And along with that as well, they're using a different encryption algorithm. They're not using the original one that either Segwit2x or Bitcoin is offering. It's still where you can use ASIC miners, but it's a different one than the original proposed Segwit2x. So practically nothing in this list is even Segwit2x related. None of it. It really isn't, outside of the fact that it has Segwit, which Bitcoin already has. So the title itself is entirely practically misleading at this point. But you can also see as well, oh, the team is thinking ahead of the game here. Let's see, they've got a roadmap for the next 12 months for B2X. And what are some of the big additions? Well, they want to have offline code support. They want to have Lightning Network support for instant transactions. ZK Snark support. And along with that, I'll kind of shift these two. ZK Snark and anonymous transactions have to do with privacy and anonymous implementations for Bitcoin transactions and identities on the Bitcoin blockchain. And along with that as well, they want to have Ethereum smart contract support, so to be able to implement smart contracts on the Bitcoin network. Now, these things might sound great, and maybe you might agree with some of these proposals up here. But first and foremost, they aren't what Segwit2x was offering, so the name itself is misleading. And second off, they're doing practically what every single fork has done in the past. They offer little to no serious innovation or change for Bitcoin. And along with that, they have a roadmap for the next 12 months, what they plan to put on Bitcoin. They're not offering any of these cool features right off the bat, much like all the other forks that want to add smart contracts or add anonymous transactions or whatever feature you want to add on top of Bitcoin. It's just simple block size changes or the rate at which blocks are created. Because of that, this is yet again another worthless fork, and it's mislabeling itself. It is not Segwit2x. The block size change alone confirms that. So now that we know that there's a difference between the original Segwit2x and the new Segwit2x, let's go ahead and think about this in a rational sense. Let's think about this in regards to the implementation of this new fork. Going over here to the price here, we have to ask ourselves if this is really worth $1,000. And I'm going to say right off the bat, first and foremost, to be fair with you all, there is practically 0% chance that this is going to replace Bitcoin. I mean, if you can't tell by the practical lack of coverage on this and the fact that this is being created by no-name developers that no one knows about, with no serious innovation as well, you're not going to see this replace Bitcoin. This is very standard. There's been a lot of forks created over the past few months, and they instantly pump up in price off their futures, and once they launch, people sell them instantly. They make a lot of money doing it. So that's also another thing to keep in mind. Not only is this being traded in the futures right now, it's not launched, so it's on very little volume to be up at this price. But along with that as well, seeing as most people are going to sell it right away, how is this going to affect Bitcoin's price? Well, a lot of people would say that what this is going to do generally, and this is what's tended to happen with forks for Bitcoin, is that you'll have the fork up towards the date where they are going to have the block that where they take a snapshot of the blockchain and they have the forked currency. You would usually expect Bitcoin's price to go up. And I think that's what you're generally probably going to see in most normal cases with forked currencies. And then after that, you would expect a sell-off. Once they've gotten their forked currency, of course, the price of Bitcoin usually corrects afterwards. However, I'm going to be honest with you all. It's going to have a slight, change in price due to this fork because it's $1,000 in valuation. However, I honestly don't think it's going to affect Bitcoin that much. And you can tell from the price ratio of Segwit2x, the futures, to where Bitcoin is right now. it's less than almost, it's around 1/14th to 1/15th of Bitcoin's valuation, depending on when you're looking at this video or wherever Bitcoin's price is. So I don't think it's going to have that much of a ramification either to the upside or downside. I think people are overselling the news on it, and it really is being treated like a laughing stock. Everyone who's done their research knows this is not Segwit2x. It clearly isn't. And you're taking a huge gamble trying to trade these futures, guys. Just going to let you know about that. This is, again, not the original Bitcoin. This is a forked currency. And it does not have the stellar development team that is behind Bitcoin. One of the best dev teams, whether you agree with some of their policies or some of their ideas or not, they are the largest dev team in the world. They are not going to be working on improvements for Segwit2x. The 2 to 3 developers who are behind this one will, but the dozens to hundreds behind Bitcoin are not going to be. So this is a separate currency. And because of that, you are not only going to have to convince development to come to it to meet all those ambitions behind it, but along with that as well, you're going to have to convince every single Bitcoin holder to go out and claim their Segwit2x. And you will never, ever do that. That's the biggest reason why I think forks are a joke and not a solid way to almost build competition for competing currencies. And I genuinely just don't believe that's the right thing to do. You need to start from scratch and create your own currency. So again, long story short, I don't see any long-term ramifications for this. It's not even Jeff Garczyk's project, and because of that, it is not Segwit2x in regards to what they're offering. The policies have nothing in regards to what Segwit2x originally planned for. So we've talked about a little bit of the history. We talked about the price ramifications for Bitcoin, and we also talked about what B2X or Segwit2x is supposedly offering. The question is now as to how you claim your Segwit2x. Well, whether or not you are just looking to actually claim it and hold it for the long term, if you think it's going to do well, or you're just like, hey, I haven't sold my Bitcoin, I'm not going to sell my Segwit2x, or if you want to get it and sell it instantly on exchange, I'm not going to advise you to do one or the other. I think you can obviously decide that for yourself. To do that, there's a few different ways you can do it, and I would recommend the two most common ways are to either have your Bitcoin inside an exchange that is going to grant you your equivalent Segwit2x. Okay, so some exchanges don't support it, some do. Or to have it in a hardware wallet, to have it in your ledger, or have it inside your Trezor, whatever you use. To have your Bitcoin in there to know that it's going to probably be supporting it and you'll be able to access it on there. Okay, so that's the real thing that you have to keep in mind. But hopefully everything goes according to plan, and whether or not it gets instantly dumped on exchange and you sell it up there, good for you, you made some money, some poor sucker bought it from you, or if you hold it long term, and who knows, maybe it does get some traction. I don't think so, but you know, could happen. Anything can happen in this world. It's crazy. But that's generally all I think you generally need to know about this, guys. There may be a few details that I'm missing on this, but again, it is not Segwit2x. Drill that into your head before you decide to go out and purchase this, because there was a lot of optimism, as we see in the price spec here for Segwit2x. There's a lot of talks that this could actually flip against Bitcoin. It could replace Bitcoin. But as we've seen in the past, time and time again, forks tend to fail. And this one is going to probably be, just my opinion here, but pretty much almost confirmed that this will not replace Bitcoin, okay? So no need to worry about it, guys, if you're Bitcoin holders. And I think that, yet again, this is just going to be another opportunity to sell the fork, build your Bitcoin position up. All right. Well, anyways, everyone, that's it for the video. Thank you all so much for watching. What do you all think about this whole kind of debacle here? I would like to know down in the comments down below and get a little bit of a discussion going in the community. Is this yet again another example of a wasteless fork, or is this actually, a replacement for Bitcoin? And do you like a lot of the proposals that this new forked currency would bring? I'd like to hear down in the comments down below. But until then, everyone, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.